Okay, our next episode is episode number 28, where Silence Has Lease. It originally aired on November 26, 1988, and was written by Jack Sowards and directed by Winrich Colby. Alright, and plot-wise with this episode, the Enterprise is mapping a little-known quadrant, and they encounter an area of blackness, just an area in space where there's no stars whatsoever. And the Enterprise moves in for a closer look, and is immediately swallowed by this black void. Now the ship's sensors don't show anything, and the Enterprise is cut off from all outside communication. And when the Enterprise tries to fly out of it, even they go to warp 2, Picard and his crew can't escape, unfortunately. Well, while they're trapped inside, all of a sudden a Romulan warbird decloaks, and the Enterprise of course goes to red alert. And after sustaining a couple hits from the Romulan disruptors, the Enterprise fires and the warbird immediately explodes. Well, Picard recognizes that that is way too easy just to explode after a few shots like that. All of a sudden then, a Federation Galaxy-class starship approaches, which is the sister ship of the Enterprise called the Yamato. Riker and Worf decide to beam over. I'm not exactly sure why they choose to do that, since they just had some suspicious things with the Romulan warbird just blowing up so easily, but that's what they do. They beam over, and they experience several really disturbing contradictions. For instance, they step onto the bridge and walk across to a door on another side of the room, and when that door opens, they look through and see the main bridge. And after several frustrating moments, Riker and Worf, they beam back to the Yamato, just as the Yamato starts to fade away from the view screen, magically somehow. And the crew of the Enterprise decide that some entity is testing their responses, like a laboratory-like setting, which is suggested by Dr. Pulaski. And Picard announces that he's not going to cooperate any longer, and that this is over. And as soon as he says that, the view screen changes, and we see a pair of eyes like the ones you see on this picture here, and a mouth peering out of them. I almost think it almost looks like a childlike picture here, but I'm kind of curious. Comment below what you think that picture looks like. I think it's a very interesting looking creature there. But anyway, the blackness identifies itself as the entity called Nagilum. And Nagilum starts spinning Dr. Pulaski around the bridge, because she has a different construction, and they figure out that that's because she's a female. And one of the funny lines of this particular show is he says, how do you procreate? And he says, he says, how do you multiply yourselves? And they say, we have procreation. And he says, please demonstrate how this is accomplished. And Dr. Pulaski says, hardly likely. But that one line is used quite a bit in a lot of parodies I've seen on YouTube, and just a lot of funny recuts. By the way, if you guys have never seen the recuts from a guy named General Grin, I think he goes by Major Grin now. You can type that into your your YouTube search. He has some of the funniest Next Generation recuts, and he has practically every Next Generation episode in there. So if you haven't seen any of those, I really encourage you to watch those, because they're funny, and it's almost like watching new episodes, because he turns the tables on all the characters and makes them clearly mischievous, and it's just hilarious. Anyway, I digress. Let's go back to the plot here. So, they decide that Nagilum is, asking some more questions here, and he asks if the crew have a limited existence. And Nagilum decides to kill an ensign to find the answer. And thankfully, Wesley Crusher, who's usually sitting at the navigator's station, is conveniently not there. And it's just a random ensign who unfortunately gets killed by Nagilum. And Nagilum states that to understand the death completely, he needs to kill only about 1/3 to 1/2 of the crew in various ways, just because he's very curious. He wants to figure out what that's like. Now Picard, of course, refuses to allow this, and decides that he would rather die than watch Nagilum slaughter his crew. So Picard and Riker set the Enterprise for Autodestruct, and they decide on giving it a 20-minute countdown. And as they're doing this, Picard goes back to his quarters just to prepare himself, and Data and Troy enter the room, and Data asks Picard what is death like, and Picard explains the different theories about that. And then all of a sudden, both Troy and Data start calling him Jean-Luc, and that it's wrong for him to make the decision to have the whole crew sacrificed. And Picard immediately realizes that it's wrong for these two officers to react this way, and that these are not actually Data and Troy at all, but Nagilum trying to stop them. And he immediately says, "It's not going to work, Nagilum." And Nagilum at this point decides to no longer kill the crew, and at the very last possible second, Picard and Riker abort the Autodestruct, and the crew is safe. And Nagilum basically says, "Maybe we'll encounter each other again sometime," and Picard says, "Perhaps we will, but we're going to do it this time amongst the stars." And that is the end of the episode. Now, this particular episode is, I guess, what you really call a bottle show, because there are really no planets that they go to, and it was actually a clever way to really save money on the cost of this episode. As I had mentioned in the previous episode, they were just going through a writer's strike, and they were trying to save money with this season. And by having a sister ship in this, they really have another location, and yet not another location. So I thought that was very clever that they made use of that. At the same time, they have some good special effects there. It's really cool to see multiple bridges. I liked this episode, but also recognize it's not one of the best. They're still giving Worf a lot of cheesy lines. For example, when Riker and Worf are aboard the Yamato, Worf just gets so frustrated. He says, "There should only be one bridge on a ship, one bridge!" And I don't think they were trying to be laughable with that, but it clearly is when he says it. And they're still trying to make Worf, I would say they're trying to make Worf pretty, I don't know, pretty like a simpleton, I feel like, in the first few seasons here. And that definitely improves over time, and they give Worf a much richer character. But still, he's kind of like a animal-like creature who kind of just reacts first and doesn't have a lot of intelligence coming out of him. I'm so glad that they changed that, though, as the series continued. They also have, as I mentioned, a purposely funny line where Nagilum says, "Please demonstrate how your procreation is accomplished." I thought that was pretty funny. And besides that, it's an okay episode. I think it's Maurice Hurley, who's the head writer, he really liked that and found that it turned out really well, according to him. But I think probably in the second season it's probably more forgettable, but at the same time I think it's a huge step of improvement compared to season 1, if that's to say anything. So yeah, comment below, let me know what your thoughts about where Silence has Lease is, and just curious about what you thought about it. So let me know about that. Stay tuned for the next episode. By the way, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go to YouTube and Bob the Business Builder, and there you can subscribe to my channel, where you can get all the episodes of Next Gen that I've reviewed, plus a lot of other good stuff in there, guys. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.